Hey YouTube, this video is going to tell you everything you need to know about burn card utility in Titanfall. I'll be mostly focusing on burn card effects that the cards have but don't tell you about, and I'll be covering some strategies for efficient use of the cards. First off, this is not an alphabetized list. The list is arranged based on category. First the Titanfall and burn cards, then build time and XP cards, then minion interaction cards, then ability and enhancement cards, then weapon cards. Let's get started. The Ogre, Strider, and Atlas Titan call-ins. First thing you should know about these is never use them in Last Titan Standing. I previously attempted to call in an extra Titan after my Titan is destroyed in that mode, and been unable to do it. None of the build time reducer cards have any effect either in that mode. You can use the free Titan drop cards in Last Titan Standing, but they don't do anything, and you can't actually call in a Titan if your starting Titan dies. So using a Titan drop card in that mode is basically throwing it into a trash can. Now as for their mechanics, what seems to happen is that the Titan shows up with as close a copy to your selected custom Titan loadout as possible, and if you don't have custom Titans unlocked yet, it'll arrive with a copy of your selected default kit. I field tested this by selecting my first custom loadout, which was an Ogre, and using a Strider drop card, and the Strider showed up with a copy of the Ogre's equipment. A quad rocket with extended magazine, electric smoke, rocket salvo, nuclear ejection, and auto ejector, with the only difference being the Strider's Titan core ability. So it'll try to copy your selected gear when you call it in, even if your selected gear is on a different Titan. So if you want your Titan drop to have a specific loadout, you'll want to select that loadout in your custom Titan slot before calling in the free Titan drop. I personally find Titan call-ins very useful in attrition mode to mow over lots of grunts early on, and to provide some initial protection and advantages in pilot hunter mode, though alternative uses exist such as flag running in capture the flag mode, and rushing to capture certain points on hardpoint maps. All in all, Titan call-ins are quite useful in pretty much any mode. Any questions? No? Good, moving on. Now, build time cards and XP cards. There are two flat build time reduction cards, Decisive Action and Pull Rank, which lower Titan build time by 40 and 80 seconds respectively. Generally, either should be used at the start of a match to help you get a Titan out on the field as quickly as possible, unless you have an alternative card you plan to start with. You can also bring multiple reduction cards to a match to chain them back to back for a quick Titan. It's recommended you don't hoard them for that purpose though, since they'll start taking up too much of your deck space. There's also cards that reduce Titan build time when you attack Grunts, Spectres, and Titans labeled within the ranks, Urban Renewal, and Titan Salvage respectively. There's also an outsource burn card that reduces time for all combat actions at the expense of no longer granting bonus XP. It should be noted that the Titan damaging cards also grant bonuses when you're rodeoing an enemy Titan, and doing so with either Titan Salvage or Outsource will almost fully charge a Titan bar in just a few seconds. The bonus experience points granted are also pretty good. As for whether it's better to take a flat build time reduction card or a reduction on damage card, it really comes down to risk-reward. Any one of the reduction on damage cards can easily outscale either of the flat reduction cards, but the risk is that you'll be killed before doing so, whereas the flat reduction cards are activated the second you spawn in, and that will in part come down to personal preference. Generally, I don't find myself needing to discard those cards, since you can just use them for potential benefit pretty much at any given time, and in most modes except Last Titan Standing. As for the Fast Learner Double Experience burn card, really it's best used when you get a Titan to rake in some kills, or in a mode you're not likely to die early on in. More on that later. Now, moving on to minion interaction. This category includes Conscription, Double Agent, Spectre Camo, and Wi-Fi Virus. Conscription is useless. All it does is tag nearby grunts to gain XP for you. They don't follow you around to any noticeable degree, so you can't herd them into a building or off a cliff to deny points to the enemy team, and grunts get so few kills that a Conscription card will pretty much never be worth what any other card in the game would be, so unfortunately it's a candidate for most useless card. Double Agent also has very limited use. For this one I have to ask, how often exactly do you actually die to non-pilot opponents to begin with? I can see this card being potentially useful for new players that actively die to Grunts and Spectres, and may be worth using instead of discarding as you get it for some Auto-Titan immunity, but generally speaking the card, while not useless, is outclassed by most other cards. The same goes for Spectre Camo. Most enemy pilots are identified by their rapid movement, tactical ability use, habit of firing while running around, and other obvious features. I don't think any competitive opponent is going to see a Spectre spraying an LMG and think it isn't a pilot and avoid shooting it. I discard all the Spectre Camo cards I get because the only potential situation I can see using one in is if you're trying to round up a Spectre army and blend in, but doing so requires you to behave like them, and if you're in a pack of Spectres, you're begging to have a satchel charge thrown at you. It might be fun for gimmicks once in a while, or to blend in with some Spectres on a rooftop, but it's not a card that holds much practical value. Spectre Wi-Fi is a little more useful, since hacking Spectres grants attrition points, and they'll follow you onto a roof so you can move Spectres to make them harder to kill. The hack is also in play even if you're inside a Titan, so if you're stomping around in one and walk by enemy Spectres, they'll still get hacked. The hack will also go through walls, and if playing Militia on the second mission in campaign mode, can be used on the IMC starting Spectres for a quick 20 or so attrition points if you don't die first. I personally don't find Spectre Wi-Fi as useful as most other cards because I don't find Spectres very dangerous, even in a large group, but that is a somewhat subjective point. Hacking Spectres grants attrition points, so it can situationally be useful. All in all, the minion interaction cards tend to be among the least valuable, though, and you should generally be ready to discard common or useless burn cards to make room for new ones you're going to get in your next match or from challenges. So don't hesitate to throw out cards like Inscription whenever you get it, rather than trying to find a situation to spend cards in if you're going to risk blocking the acquisition of better cards from challenges. At the moment, you don't get prompted at the end of a match to throw out cards for new ones if your card deck is full, and instead the new cards are automatically trashed, which I find inefficient, but it is what it is, and you should be throwing out bad cards to make sure better cards have room. Anyway, moving on to ability cards. Rematch, Map Hack, Echo Vision, etc. Rematch is a very dangerous card to use. When you use a rematch card, the enemy player who killed you gets an advanced warning that says, "Rematch incoming," and displays your name, meaning he can throw a satchel charge on the spot you died and kill you the instant you respawn. There's also a several second delay after you select and use the rematch card, and when you do respawn, giving the opponent ample time to do just that. In many cases, the extra time spent waiting for Rematch to activate can translate to time you could have spent respawning normally and sprinting off to do something else. Rematch also notifies nearby enemy players even if they didn't kill you, and it also can't be used during evacuation sequences. Also, there's no discrimination for where Rematch spawns you, and if you died while falling off a cliff, Rematch will drop you off a cliff again. I generally discard Rematch cards, but if you want to use them for hardpoint defense or some such, be aware that whoever killed you is given advanced notice. Active Camo, Smuggled Stimulant, and Oral Implant are just better versions of the default ability that last longer, nothing really to explain there. Though you could trigger Radar from Oral Implant right before getting into a Titan for the benefit of keeping the radar pulses in a Titan for a few seconds longer than normal. Now as for Map Hack and Satellite Uplink, the two cards that reveal your minimap, these are extremely useful in Pilot Hunter mode, especially if you call them in once you get a Titan, preferably one with auto-ejector for added safety, so you can search for enemy pilots and kill them in such a camp-heavy mode. Echo Vision, the permanently active radar pulse, can also be used from inside a Titan, making it also very useful on Pilot Hunter mode, or just generally when used with a Titan. Packet Sniffer and Spider Sense are basically significantly weaker awareness abilities. They're active permanently, and Packet Sniffer can be used from inside a Titan for decent utility. However, Spider Sense is not likely to notify you to threats you aren't already aware of until right before they kill you. You could maybe get some use out of them in Pilot Hunter or Hardpoint, but I always discard Spider Sense if my card deck is nearly full to make room for better cards. As for Ghost Squad and Adrenaline Transfusion, Permacloak and Permastim respectively, it should be noted that rodeoing a Titan while cloaked still gives the enemy Titan's pilot a warning that he is being rodeoed, both audio and visual. For Ghost Squad, Echo Vision, and Adrenaline Transfusion, it would be wise to combine them with abilities that are useful for what you happen to be doing. If you're sprinting around a map to capture hardpoints, consider pairing Radar Vision with Adrenaline Transfusion so as to check for campers in or near hardpoints, for example. In regards to Ghost Squad, I should caution you that activating Sprint will make your cloak flicker temporarily, as will firing a weapon even if it's suppressed. It should also be noted that you can still be tracked by a Smart Pistol while cloaked. Moving on to Supercharger and Massive Payload, the Titan-related abilities, it should be noted that in the Last Titan Standing game mode, burn cards that are activated in one round carry over to the next round if you don't die. Meaning, cards like Supercharger, Massive Payload, Fast Learner for double experience, and the like can be used for the full duration of the match rather than just one round, making them generally more powerful in Last Titan Standing than in most other modes. However, I should also caution you that at the end of a round in Last Titan Standing, your character is frozen and all your movement control is blocked, and while frozen, your character can still die and have the burn card lost. There's also a note I should make about Supercharger, that being there's a way to recycle and reuse the burn card. Since the method to do so isn't copied by Massive Payload, I presume it's a bug. While filming to make a different video about destroying evac dropships, I discovered that if you have the Supercharger burn card set to be the card you spawn with next, at the time you enter a Titan, you'll automatically charge the Titan's core ability, and at the time of the uploading of this video, it still works after the recent patch. Moving on to weapon burn cards, I'm not going to go into each weapon individually, as most of them have self-explanatory names and card descriptions. What I will say, though, is that burn card weapons don't carry over the attachments of the item, and subsequently you can wind up with burn cards for weapons you haven't even unlocked yet. Also, with the unlimited arc mines, you can plant 4 of them before earlier mines start to disappear. Anyway, that should provide a fairly concise understanding of most burn cards and their various utilities. If you have any questions, post them below, and maybe I'll answer them on a full moon if you perform a human sacrifice and the mighty Google Plus allows me to see the comment. Blah blah, end of video stuff, blah blah, see you later.